Well, greetings, everyone. It's nice to be in this wonderfully renovated Center for the Arts building. It's so beautiful. Thank you for coming out today. I thought that was a wonderful film. I hope you did too. It's encouraging to see such determination, clarity, perseverance, and even prosperity in these Indian communities. One comes away with a sense of optimism about the many signs of Native resilience and revitalization. One looks forward optimistically to learning more about Native foods. Once again, we are reminded that Indigenous cultural continuity is adaptive in times of rapid change. Also, that Native people were skilled environmental managers, manipulating the environment for greater health and productivity. We are reminded again of the survival value of biodiversity and the importance of understanding the relationships within nature and intraspecies relationships. Most poignantly for me is the teaching of the imperative that human beings must be active and collective participants in world renewal, because I think we are now at that place in our history. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce Shelly Covert. Many of you may know her. And I've known Shelly for over 20 years now. And as many of you probably know, she is the spirit and the brains behind the revival of the Nevada City Rancheria, and it has come on so strong under her leadership. She is a remarkable woman, and she talks a lot about the invisibility of Indian people, but she has become a household word in this county. Everyone knows and admires this woman, as I do.
Thank you, Tanis.
All right. Darrel Cruz is also a man of great accomplishments. I don't know him personally, but he is from, let me see if I can get the pronunciation right. He's a native Washoe speaker, and he's a member of the Southern Washoe group, the Hangalelti. Did I say that?
Hangalelti.
Hangalelti Washoe. And he is in their tribal historic preservation office. He has done a lot with traditional cultural activities and ceremonies and brought them back from extinction, and he especially has some good background in fire management and forestry. So I would like to turn the floor over to these two distinguished guests. And I guess I'd like to ask each of you what kind of programs or practices are currently in place in your particular communities, adding to the larger community, and also what you would like to see.
Well, I'll start because, just to say, Darrel is, a lot of times when there's big projects going on, Nevada City Rancheria, because we're a terminated tribe, we have like this much capacity, and it's mostly me and CHIRP staff. And CHIRP is the nonprofit that we started, it's founded by Judith Lowry, to preserve, protect, and perpetuate Nisenan culture. And there's so much work to do and just not enough hands to do it right now. I want to pull my cousin Saxon away from his day job so bad and get him a full-time steady position in CHIRP to do the stuff that Darrel does, because I just keep saying, like, I'll do a lot, but like when it gets out into scaling mountains and the things that need to be done and dealing with ticks and different things like that, mosquitoes, I get all, but, that's what has to be done when you're protecting sacred sites. And I come up, with Darrel a lot because the Washoe and Nisenan share that upper territory. There's overlap there. And it's so amazing because, I'm sure they have their own capacity issues. There's always too much work and not enough people. Yep. But it just feels so good to know that they are there, and sometimes they'll say we defer to Nevada City, and most of the time I just don't respond because I can't even get the capacity to respond, but it's so good to know that you guys are there and they're doing such incredible work. And but I just feel like we aren't even at the point where I have the capacity to have a staff to respond to local projects, even like in downtown. And I hope that's going to change. It's just about looking for funding for staff members so I can pull my cousin Saxon away from his day job, and he could, and dare I say should, be working all those hours to support the tribe. Yeah. And Darrel.
Well, okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
you.
Talk me up now, I got to live up to this. My name's Darrel Cruz. I'm the Historic Preservation Officer for the Washoe tribe. I'm a Hungalalti Washoe, which is southern Washoe, takes in Mono County, Alpine County, Calaveras, El Dorado, and Amador counties. That's the southern Washoe. So that's where I'm from. But our office is located in Gardnerville, Nevada. It's located in Gardnerville because of many reasons. After takeover, it happened to be a place where Washoe people can get employment, right? So that's where they kind of migrated to. But there was also other reasons as well. In 1850, California passed a law that you can go out and legally kill any native person. And the Nisenan and Maidu was ground zero for that, along with a lot of the California tribes. So in doing that, I think we lost a lot of our culture on the west side of the Sierras. So the Washoe land goes from Honey Lake down to Sonora Pass in California, out to the Pine Nut and Virginia ranges in Nevada, on the west slope of the Sierra Nevadas. We don't know exactly how far down or what, because I think we lost that part of that connection once they instilled that law. And watching that film, they were talking about value, dollar value, and it's like, well, the United States put dollar value on the native people. I think it was 25 cents a scalp for California natives, and then it went up to $5 a scalp and 25 cents for a child. So that was the government that we had to deal with. And because of that, not just the Washoe tribe, but the Nisenan had lost a lot of their culture, their purposes, lost a lot of their home range. It all got taken over. Just like ours, the Washoe, within a very short time period during the gold rush, thousands of people came into the area. And then during the silver rush, 5 years later, they all moved back, and it just became thousands of people here at one time. It was too much for us. And one of the things that they did was to alter the environment. They started mining, they contaminated the streams, killed off all of the game, and then after they did all of that, they blamed the Washoe for depleting all of the fish in Lake Tahoe. And it's like, well, they were here for thousands of years until these new people arrived. But anyway, I think I'm getting ahead of myself.
I didn't know that piece.
Oh, yeah. So that's what my job is. My job is mostly regulatory. But one of the things I did when I got the position was I assessed what the tribe is, what my job is. And at that time, it seemed like mostly what they were doing was just basket weaving. It's like, we got to be more than just that.
That's all there is.
Right, yeah. So immediately I set about working with the agencies, and one of the things we have now is a traditional fishing day where we make our traditional harpoons, spears, nets, and traps, and we can apply it. So before, it used to be a a craft, but a craft is just that unless you apply it. When you apply it, then it becomes real. And so once we did that, it became real. But what it also brought back was our names, our purpose, how we do it. There was a whole purpose of these things that it brought back. And so that was really good. So we still do that every year. Also, we passed an ordinance in the tribal laws that allow for traditional hunting as well. Traditional hunting using traditional bows and arrows of that type. You got to make your own to do it. You can only be a Washoe if you lived Washoe. Otherwise, you're just talking and making a lot of noise like a lot of people sometimes they do. Sorry, I don't mean to dominate this
I
whole...
love it. No, it's great. That's what it's about. All of it, yeah.
But everything that the people were talking about in these films with the tribe, we've had very similar experiences. We also have very similar successes reviving the culture, the language, our purpose, our place, all of that. What I've been told, though, is there's always just been a handful of Washoe keeping all of this stuff alive. The rest of them seem to adopt to modern society pretty good, and they forsake their own culture. And so I'm just thankful that we had people in the tribe to keep these things going. So we have really true Washoes. And I do work with Shelly and other people. We get a lot of project notifications. Like I said, I'm kind of a regulatory thing, but I try to do cool stuff like here today, education. But we do work with her, United Auburn Indian Community. I mean, there was a project just right up the road, Omega Curves on Highway 20 several years ago. I actually declined that project. I said, I'm going to defer to UAAC and Nevada City. Well, anyway, UAIC called me up like 6 months later and said, hey, can you help us on this? So I called up Caltrans. I said, I need to get back on this conversation. So they said, okay. The good part of this is they were able to, with that consultation process, they were able to avoid damaging the archaeological resources and contour the road design around it. It cost a little bit more extra, but they preserved a archaeological feature that once it's gone forever. And it is the story of the Native people. So I'm also very lucky to be working with agencies like Caltrans who understand that and are able to make that happen. And they, even though it's going to cost them extra, they were able to do that. So that's a success story.
Wasn't there the Animal Crossing too, right? That
And
went
Animal
under
Crossing,
the road,
yeah,
which
that
so
was another
cool.
feature, yeah.
That's very cool.
One of the things is I worked in Florida for many years on the Highway 70, I think it's the main road, maybe it's 75. Every mile, there's an undercrossing that allows wildlife to go under the road. And the reason why is animals are getting whacked out all the time down there. So they did that, and it's been really successful. Animals are allowed to go back and forth. I'd like to see more of that on all of the highways. Just last year, thanks. Just last year, after the Tamarack fire and the Caldor fire, I believe there was 6 bears killed on Highway 395 between my house and Gardnerville, Nevada. And they continued to be killed here and there. And it's because of these wildfires. They no longer had a home. But, you know, that's what I have been advocating as well, is that these animals, they have an important place here. We're in their neighborhood. You know, we got to do everything we can to protect them.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
You'll be sorry, it's great.
Yay! Can't see you very well. Do we have any questions? Any questions? Oh, yes.
For those of us who don't know what the rancheria is, can you talk about that?
Me? Oh, sure. So, the Nevada City Rancheria was created in 1913 when the last headman, Charlie Cully, died. And we were federally recognized by executive order by Woodrow Wilson. And so that was a federal reservation up until its termination in 1964. and they sold the land and terminated the rancheria. So a lot of the work that I do, and this is intergenerational work, like it started with my grandfather, and then my mom was the first chairwoman, and then, now I'm the right age, I guess. Maybe it's the right age. Definitely not the smart one or anything like Tana said. I think I'm just stubborn, and I get obsessed, and I'm very curious, and I want to make sense of things like the termination and how we get our tribe restored, because a lot of the piece, that Darrel has is this voice, they have sovereignty, and they have a big voice. So does Auburn. Like when they roll up and they're talking to the Army Corps of Engineers, and I mean, it's real. And so seeing the other tribes who have been restored and we're not, and I hate to tell you this, but I'm my third trip through Benjamin Hadley's book called An American Genocide, and it's just sources, like source of how, Darrel was saying, how things were wiped out so quickly. And it's just so apparent. I think it's like, I'm rubber, you are glue, bounce off me, stick on you. Wherever you position yourself with the government, they go whoop over here, you go over here, and they're like zoop. When it's just also apparent with the state of California and with the federal government that there was so much bad that was done, and that almost all the other tribes have been restored in California, so why not us? And then I'm having to spend all this time trying to figure out, these things have huge learning curves, and you get with all the experts, and there is no clear answer, and things contradict, and blah, blah, blah. So, getting the federal recognition back for Nevada City Rancheria is sort of at the center of what I do, and then the cultural stuff. I'm trying not to, somehow I'm one of the ones in the tribe that is still floating somehow. I think it's because we all lived together in one house many generations. And I'm just trying to hold up my cousins and my aunties and stuff, because they're like, when their head goes underwater and you're like, ah. I'm trying to keep everybody above water. And it's not to play the fiddle or anything, but it's rough. And it just seems like such a dumb thing to be arguing about when the evidence is overwhelming, that they should just restore it. And then I could go on to better things in life, like playing my bass in my band and singing and playing on my computer. I used to play World of Warcraft all the time, and I haven't in a long time, and I'm starting to get a tiny bit bitter about those pieces. Like, makes me mad. And I'm not getting any younger, dang it.
Well, I have a question for you.
Great.
You recently told me there was good news that you had become state recognized. Can you tell me what that will mean in terms of qualitatively, in terms of what you can do?
I mean, so before we went to the state, we made sure we had the local recognition, our board of supervisors recognition. As we go toward the feds, it makes sense that they would be like, well, what does California think? And California sometimes says there are no state recognized tribes, but they hold a list of tribes that can consult on projects like Darrel and I are always doing. And so it's been 7 years I've been trying to get on that list. They literally lost my packet 3 times. And seriously, it's Saturday Night Live style funny, where you're just like, I just end up laughing at everything. So we're finally on that list. California is starting to have some funds available.
Oh, good.
I mean, I don't think the budget's been passed yet, maybe, yeah. But for tribes, but if you're not on that list, you don't get to apply for the money. And the same with federal programs. Like if you're not a federal tribe, you don't get to apply for that money. So I hope it opens up some doors. I'm already starting to see, we got on the list March 21st, and the number of requests for consultation has already just like tripled.
Oh, great.
And it's scary because I couldn't open all of the other ones before we were on the list, because we're consulting locally, after years and years and years of relationship building. So, but yeah, like Darrel said too, like some of the Caltrans or Tahoe National Forest, for example, made relationships with them that they've been helpful. And it's usually one staff member who just will go the extra few miles and go, Shelly, 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 you know, because they're sweet or whatever, to help with that process, because there's just not enough capacity. But I hope it's going to be good. I mean, it's something we should definitely have a party about.
Yes.
If you guys have seen the mural in Grass Valley, that's my little cousin Jenny, yeah, and Nikila Badua is the artist. She's awesome. So we're having a party there May 22nd. So you guys should all come, and we'll celebrate that, and maybe getting on the list and other things.
Okay. All right.
Shelly and Darrel, I just want to
Hi.
thank you so much for taking the time to educate us and to share tribal knowledge, and also to follow on with the film, the film and the heritage pieces of it.
Yeah.
It's so important. I wonder if you can say, Shelly, a little bit more about the Ancestral Homelands Reciprocity Program.
Oh, thank you. One of CHIRP's projects we created fashioned after what the Bay Area tribes are doing, like the Shumi land tax and I never say it right, the Sigordahay, is that right? Sigordahay Land Trust. I mean, those, Karina Gould, I mean, there's some rock stars down there. And sometimes I feel like Nevada County is a little slow on getting like on the rolling ball of social stuff, social and cultural things sometimes up here. It takes us a little while. And so the Bay Area, it feels like they're light years ahead of us in some of these conversations. So we have very much modeled the Ancestral Homelands Reciprocity Project after those type of projects. And really what it is, because we need support, and CHIRP obviously is the vehicle for donations and grant writing, but ARP, as we call it, is just a way for people to donate on a continuous basis, monthly. I have someone who donates $3 a month, and it goes up, I think someone donates $300 a month, which I'm just like, it's amazing, and it's ongoing. And I think we're just under $8,000 a month. We have over 300 participants. 65 of those are local businesses. And it just feels like something that has grown by itself. We haven't been going, oh no, art, we got to get messages out and stuff. It's really just been the spirit of the moment and of the movement. And it's been fabulous. So, if you feel like supporting that, my mom donates, she has to. She's like, well, if they're gonna donate, I have to donate. But my stuff usually goes to pit bull rescue type stuff, where I would give them everything. I'd be like, take my house, my kid, I don't care. But you can go to our website, you can go to nisenan.org or chirpca, CHIRPCA.org. We have an online store in our gallery in Nevada City. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to support. And really, just saying the word Nisenan is flippin' fabulous, because it's not something we heard 10 years ago out in the street, so. But thank you for bringing that up. I never promote.
You got a website?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Shelly, for all the work that you're doing. Truly, it's amazing. Hi, I'm over here. Hi.
Oh, there you are. I couldn't see. Okay.
I know, thank you. I just, would love to know a bit more about the Nisenan tribe right now. Like, how many are there? Where is the rancheria? What does it actually mean to be restored? What does all of that look like? Like, I really want to know. I want to participate, but I feel like I have some ignorance about it all. So
It's
thank you.
great. I'll tell you, I wouldn't know all this stuff if I didn't have to. So the rancheria is no longer. It was on Cement Hill Road. In our tribe, we have 143 members. And, the path back to federal recognition is just, I think it's like a dice roll, but it's like the 12-sided, like Dungeons and Dragons dice, where it's not just... we have so much content on our website. I don't want to, bore people who already know anything. There's literally hours of videos of me. about stuff like this. But if you're interested, you know, there's so many points to talk about. One of my latest rants was like, when I heard wow, I'm just too brain mouth. So the head of the Tahoe National Forest, Ellie, is amazing. I'd be like, if he ran for president, I'd vote for him. But the relationship with the forest has been problematic, like a long time ago, right? So I was ranting about the fire stuff because the Forest Service came to me one day and said, hey, would you guys like to share your traditional fire practices? And I was like, literally jaw drop. Because at the same time they outlawed burning the land, they outlawed burning the dead people. We're a cremating society. And then suddenly, oh no, the forests are in trouble. And then they come back to the we have like nothing left, you know? And I was just like, whoa. It was sort of the same feeling I had when somebody said, how do you feel about them reopening the Idaho Maryland mine? And I was like, you know I have a biased opinion about that, right? Like, do you know about the gold rush? But, you know, there's just loads of me talking about random stuff like that. And we're also getting ready to start a podcast. So, I mean, where we can just talk and talk and talk. I'll call up Darrel and we can yap about the dang roads and the dang, like he's talking about the dollar amount. They, you know, you can figure out for mitigation, they can put dollar amounts on burials, like if a burial gets impacted. And I'm just like, you know. I'm rapping. Anyway, loads of stuff. Go on our website. Check it out. There's tons of stuff. And, yeah. Or if you want to meet, you can come in the gallery, you know. Oh.
I just wanted to comment in case you didn't see the article in the Union. Shelly took on Ben Mossman of Washoe, and she was tough.
Did you see that? It's
Who's
so
that?
new.
Who's that?
The guy, he's the CEO of the Rise Gold Mine that wants to reopen Idaho mine. Huh? Oh, it was so funny. So someone wrote a gave his response to the draft environmental impact report. He sent it to the County Planning Commission and then CC'd the Rise Gold dude and said, here's my comments. And I don't know if the guy accidentally, I mean, we've probably all done it, hit reply all, or thought you were Facebooking somebody and you were actually Facebooking somebody else you would never want to Facebook, and it goes out and you're like, ah. But the story is that he didn't know he was responding. He didn't know he hit reply all. And he said, this county's so naive for supporting this group's federal recognition. Welcome to Canada. That was his comment. And I was like, what? You know, and I said, hey, is this private? And he goes, no, he sent it to a couple people. It's not private. And I was like, okay. Got a hold of a reporter friend and started talking about that. And then Bob Crabb got a hold of the thing and did a cartoon. And he put a T in naive, so it was native. And I was like, oh my God, so cool. He's like, this, we're not naive. This is native land or something like that. And I was like, that is so cool. So anyway, yeah. It's just like, I think we get really disillusioned, or like if you talk about jobs, we suddenly go, right, jobs, oh my God. Like, it just like, doesn't matter what you're talking about, like aliens eating your face, but they'll give you a job. You're like, oh my God, you know, and we have to be careful about that. So I said something to that account, and like, you're gonna haul off all Grass Valley's dirt, like, why is that okay? You know, and our ozone's already bad here for all the reasons, and traffic. Have you tried to go to Brunswick in noontime lately? It's already so bad. And so anyway, I just, you know, I was seeing if the community, like if we all decided we wanted to reopen that mine and we'd all share in the stakes as stakeholders, because we had to, that would be one thing. But some like rando guy who's gonna just accidentally hit reply all and say stuff like that, you know, is going to come and do that kind of damage and then run off with all of our gold. I just don't think it's okay. Yeah. Welcome to Canada. What does that even mean? Racist, right? That's a racist comment. Because the way we
Yeah,
I'm-
I can do that, yeah.
I'm curious to hear how current indigenous perspectives of nature can help us navigate climate change and the climate crisis, and what practices that you are putting into work, either on a small scale within the tribe or outside of the tribe, that you see other cultures adapting to try and manage the climate crisis that we're experiencing.
I don't know if we're actually confronting it right now, but we did do a big study about climate change. The climate change is how it'll affect the tribe, and what are the target species that'll happen to those species if they're no longer there. How are we going to react to it? What do we need to do before it becomes critical stage? So we did put together a document that how we should confront this. How we implement it and put it into action now, I'm not exactly sure. The tribe has a 4-year, every time they get a new tribal chairman, he comes up with his own idea of ruling the world. And a lot of times it's not in line with the people, and some of these documents that we come up with, they kind of go away. But these are sort of the documents that need to be a living document, and they need to be at the forefront of whoever's in charge of the tribe, so that they know we have this, and they know that it's something we can fall back on. So, yeah. I don't know what else we're doing to confront climate change, though, so.
Do you think because the Washoe is so stretched, like north-south, is there I would assume that climate change is going to affect everybody differently, right? Because it's in that long stretch. It's really always been really trippy to me that we always go east to west most of the, when you guys are like that. I bet you that's even more difficult to navigate.
Well, it is. I think we ended up like that because the California tribes expanded their territory, and the Great Basin tribes expanded their territory. As they expanded, we got pushed into these mountainous regions. I think we've always been in the mountainous regions, so one of our creation stories says that we came from Lake Tahoe, that's where the Creator had put us, is Lake Tahoe. So yeah, Lake Tahoe is the center of the universe for the Washoe.
And please raise your hands so we know.
Does this work? Yeah. Do you need any boots on the ground to help with land stewardship? I know you have some land in your charge.
Totally yes. Yeah, it's really interesting. So they're putting the tribute trail is extending from where it ends right now, and it goes up onto Champion Mine, and people drive that road like it's a freeway, kind of. So it'll be really nice to get the trail's going to come down onto that land. And I hope that once the trail goes in, it's just going to sort of naturally open up to more people coming. That land has a lot of issues. It's carrying a lot of burden because of the Champion and Providence mines were there. Like, that is the land. And so while I'm, yay, Turf's got 32 acres, it's got its issues. But, there's a lot of dumping and stuff that goes on that, because we need a caretaker out there eventually, and, but yes, absolutely. I keep getting offers of native plants and stuff to plant, and I'm like, wait, we need to, something has to happen first. So I thought the trail going in, and then we would start carving out areas that we know have no contaminations on it, and then it's a constant thing with the dumping out there and our poor homeless folks. At first I was like, we're not moving those homeless people, they can help, what you said, help us with the land. And then, the people are, man, they've got issues. They're sick. They've probably been decades into this homeless atmosphere that's just not done well for them. But they were cutting down trees, and there's needles and human feces that goes, and I'm just like that. Once you start cutting down trees and hurting the animals, human thing, I'm always like, whatever. But I'm like, that's not okay. So I got a little hardened to that because I'm always too, But yeah, absolutely. We should start a biannual something out there, planting, moving stuff, not too much walking, just sitting, and I could watch people do that stuff.
Can I, Eric, sorry, can I answer your question earlier about climate change? So one of the things the tribe did do is we initiated solar power on our offices and our health centers and all this other stuff. We did this actually years ago, and actually the state of Nevada gave the tribe an award because we were the first organization to actually implement solar power in the state. So we have it on a lot of our facilities becoming more self-reliant, not putting any burden on coal fire or any of these other constituents that cause a decline of the environment and climate change.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hi, Shelly. It's Alina.
Oh, Lena! Hi,
So,
Lena!
outside of like the 32 parcel Deer Creek Trail and Cement Hill, and you're talking about the capacity for not having everyone that you need, there's too much work.
Yes.
Would you say that getting land back would be your number one priority in wanting to go ahead and then practice traditional ecological knowledge, prescribed burning, but you first need a place to do all of those things on a parcel that isn't contaminated?
Right, that's so funny. It's like, yeah, we want to do prescribed burn, but oh, there's purple dirt over there. Maybe those two things won't go well together. I don't know. Yeah, absolutely. And it's been really great. Aaron Tarr of the Berryuba Land Trust and their board has, it's the movement right now. Land trusts are even saying land back to Native folk. And they're getting into the social justice conversations that are so far overdue. And what my hope is, and I think I've asked them this strongly, is that they will incubate a land trust for us. Because CHIRP can hold land, but it's not the perfect vehicle to do that. So, creating our own land trust paired with probably some kind of, whatever ARP turns into, some kind of money thing, and then the land thing, and then CHIRP. The triad would be great. And, but we do need land because you know what? It's so funny. You can't do any culture, not baskets, not fishing, not anything without the land and animals. Like, we could create something like if we went to the space center, like the space station, we could probably still be Native people and make some kind of culture, I guess, but it's all earth-based. And so without the earth to be on, it's all like, just like Darrel was saying, it's all in theory. Like we can talk about it all day. My grandma it's helpful. My grandma was too old to get out and do this stuff, but she always told me all the steps of how to make acorn, and she told me about the plants, and she told me and told me and told me, so I have it in my head, but the first time I saw acorn mush, I was like, oh, I never pictured it that way the whole time I, thought of it when I was younger. But land is very important. So for us, Estemyanim, or the Marysville Buttes, is our center of creation, and we need a viewscape of that. Like, it's really important to have that in our lives. And all of the things, the water, the springs, the meadows, which is interesting, environmentally, the meadow folk and the healthy forest folk, and then the water folk and the salmon folk, they don't always talk to each other. Like, there are these different separate big organizations that I was always like, this conversation sounds familiar. That was with the healthy meadow people. Like, don't you guys like conversate? Like it's all one. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Elaine.
Shelly, I think there's a new law coming out in California. It's called the Native Act. Yeah, and it's supposed to be allocating funds to Native tribes for acquiring lands. So you may want to keep an eye on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Darrel. I told you he was awesome. Sorry. It's kind of weird now. I'm just keep being like, Darrel, and he's like.
I have a question for Darrel. This is regarding Washoe fire management plans for the California, Nevada state area, 395 centered between Antelope and Topaz Lake and Wellington Hills and Pine Nut. I've unfortunately seen the devastation of the fire, the Antelope fire, and that area, and really for almost a 5-year, 6-year period. And I'm just wondering how the Paiute tribal management, working with the Forest Service, might prevent such catastrophic wildfires in the future there. That's very rough, topographically rough country, and just horrible fire impacts there.
Okay, thanks for asking. So that area is important to me because I have a home down there by Topaz Lake. That's where I drove from, and sounds like you're familiar with that place. Part of the problem that we have is that some of those lands are actually what are called the allotment lands. Those are held in trust by the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And so Bureau of Indian Affairs has the trust responsibility to manage those lands, and they're not doing their job, they're not living up to it. And we've been making complaints to them about some of that. How do they make it? How do they do these sort of things to stop what's called the catastrophic stand replacement fire? So with Pinyon, once they go, they're gone for, we probably won't see them in our lifetime just because of the climate they live in. But there's other areas over there like the Forest Service lands. When they're doing fuels reduction projects, the tribe fully supports their work in partnership. We know that those are in Washoe Aboriginal land, so we want to make sure that whatever they do is not going to impact our heritage resources, but maintain the forest ecology the way it's supposed to be. So we work with the agencies, BLM and Forest Service, on their projects to make sure that they succeed in what they're doing. Does that answer your question? Yeah, thanks.
We have one here. Hi, this question is for both of you. How do you feel about the recreational activities and potential adverse effects on heritage resources within your ancestral homelands? And more specifically, I'm thinking, for example, the South Yuba watershed or Lake Tahoe, since those tend to be fairly popular places that even I, frequent. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Can I answer that?
Please.
That's a good question. So we're working with Nevada County on some projects that are happening on the upper Yuba River, the North Fork American River, up in those areas. So what's happening is with more and more people, they're finding more and more ways to get out to these remote places, and they're accessing it through maps that have been put online that direct people how to get to an archaeological site, petroglyph sites, and anything else. And what happens is there are a percentage of people who respect it and they're happy with seeing that, but you're always going to have those people that want to do damage to these places. So what we do is we work with the agencies under whose ever land management it is and do what we can to stop that. So along with Nevada County, we're working with Tahoe National Forest as well, up in those areas. So this is an ongoing problem. Ever since I've been working for the tribe, I think I've repaired about a dozen petroglyph sites. And what people are doing is they're either just painting over it, they're shooting it, or they're just stealing it. 3 years ago, there's a large archaeological site in Story County, and somebody had a bunch of petroglyph boulders. Somehow or another, we got hold of them, and not got hold of the person, but the rocks, and we did put them back to its location. Another thing that we had just recently did is the Forest Service never seemed to have had any sort of ARPA language on their websites. The ARPA is basically the federal act that protects archaeological resources. They never had it on their website. So working with the tribal liaison, Rowena, out of Vallejo, the main office, she was able to get all the Forest Services in Region 5 to put this on their websites. So now they have it on the websites, and the people have been notified that it's not right to do these sort of things. They've been duly notified. And it's very important that we do tell them that these things are wrong, because about 10 or 20 years ago on Peavine Mountain outside of Reno, somebody had stole some artifacts, some petroglyphs. Again, they stole petroglyphs. We took him to court. He went into federal court because it was on federal lands. And the guy said, well, he didn't know it was wrong to steal. And so he got off on that charge.
Oh my God.
But they ended up fining him because he had desecrated federal lands. He had damaged federal property. Not so much the artifacts, but federal property. So therefore, any chance I get to advocate that signage will go a long ways, we do that. And I work with many agencies, wherever they may be, wherever the opportunity arises, we want to do that. We get the word out to people. It's not right to steal. Not only is it damaging to Native American stuff, but it's also historic features as well. And I've seen a lot of those places just get degraded. People are stealing all the boards, and after a while you just have a piece of lumber standing there, and it's lost its whole purpose. Thank you.
We have time for one more question. Anyone?
Thank you, Darrel and Shelly. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing with us. As non-Native people living here in your territories, just wondering if there's like a simple list of here's the basic things that we could be doing to be moving in a more respectful way and to be supporting you in addition to financial contributions.
Oh, sweet. I mean, one, if you guys all listen to that book that I'm listening to it audio. My husband is like, can you turn it off now? My tummy hurts. I can't hear anymore. It's so awful. Like getting it, you hear that book and you get all perspective. And like, I used to be so afraid to ask for the smallest thing because I don't want to bug anybody. You know, like my mom and my grandpa, it's like, you know, we're not any better than anybody else. Like everybody pulls themselves up by their bootstraps and you don't ask for a handout and it's charity and, you know, Indians are drunk and lazy. All these things that pile into this big ball of stuff that's really hard to navigate sometimes. And then you go back to the direct sources of what happened. It doesn't matter if it was me and my family. I mean, this dude gives sources to the entirety of California. And it just makes it all seem so silly and so just like easy. It's like, ooh, that happened? Oh, how can I help you? You guys don't have land? How can I help you? Where it becomes a community thing, because the thing back then was people were gross. Our legislators were just, they were twisted, and not like just violent, like, pow, I hate you, you're dead, but like twisted. And the violence and the slavery, and I mean, just there's so much that makes it seem even more ridiculous when I have to argue with an archaeologist or a federal government person about anything. It's just silly. I can't believe any of us are even still here to tell these stories. And I mean, just knowing that as a person is one thing. And there's something I keep trying to get to, like all these conversations always like satellite something else. And part of it is that the earth is a living, conscientious being. And the animals and people are equal. Even though we don't believe that because we've been brainwashed or whatever, we're so far from it, we forget. you know, everything like climate change, all these little buckets of government organizations and municipalities and private properties and this and this and this, like, if there could be some kind of understanding that everything we do to the earth is doing it just like it was done to us, like we're doing it to a living thing. And I know it sounds it might be really far away for some people, but in the you know, light of what you just asked, if I got my magic wand today and I could put a glamour on everybody to make them believe that full-heartedly for one day, when you come out of that glamour, everything's going to be different to you. You're going to look at the water and the air and the animals and people in a wholly different way. And there's no reason we can't, just in case it is, just in case bugs do have feelings, you know, pretend like that's all true and navigate forward that way. Because you guys, I mean, I was wondering, like, how long do you have to be here to be Nisenan? I mean, I know genetically we'd be different, our DNA, but it means from among us, our side. So we, you know, pretty soon, I was like, if we ever get federally recognized, what if we adopted the entirety of Nevada County? Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be so cool. Then I could boss everybody around. It'd be great. Yeah. But yeah, and that's what I feel, you know, why I get all about fire management. I'm like, that's one stick in a warehouse full of hay. There's all this other stuff that you've got to, you know, that are part of the conversation. So that would be my big ask.
I'd like to answer your question as well, and that was a good question. I actually wore a shirt here today, and I'm going to show you here, and it exactly
It's like Superman.
falls back. Oh, yeah. Super Washoe.
Right, Superman.
And this is from one of our Earth Day events that we had in the past. I like it because it says everything about the tribe and everything. I'm going to take it off, and you can check it out, and basically it describes exactly what you were asking. And I wore it for this purpose. I don't know if you can see it or not. Okay.
Oh God, don't fall off the stage. Oh,
Okay, thank you. We will help each other to protect and preserve the land, water, and air for generations to come. And then it's in Washoe.
Everything
nice.
is road in Washoe, the rest of it.
Ah.
So basically, what that says is that we're all share the planet, and we've got to work together to.
Can you say it in Washoe?
Oh my gosh!
Is it? I know. If somebody said that to me, I'd be so mad.
I grew up in a Washoe family, and it was all spoken in Washoe, and everything I did was in Washoe. But then once I became 5 years old, we moved away to where my dad lives in San Francisco. They have a business there. Once we moved back, it's like I forgot everything. But one thing that really helped me with my job, though, is that we didn't just talk about Washoe, we actually lived it. So that's what really helped me in the job that I'm doing. It's one of those lucky jobs that I didn't go looking for it, it found me. It's one of them things. Thank you.
I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Thorne, Darrel, and Shelly. Do you want to say your last words or something?
No, I
Final
think-
words?
I think Darrel did it well.
That was perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, everyone, for coming today. We have another screening at 4:30 p.m., Ladybuds. So if you want to join us again, it will be a pleasure. We will have another panel following the film. And yeah, thank you.
Just talk? Oh, yeah, I think so.
Well, it's the type of heartbreak that takes more than tears and time to stitch up any wounds and heal the scars that leave behind. A separation from the fam, segregation on the land. It was all part of the plan, and the blood is on your hands. It's all divide and conquer, colonize and slaughter, stabbing at.
.us, if you want to know more about the tribe. There's a booklet on there. You can download the booklet, and it's meant for educational purposes and gives you more information about the tribe. We're still building it, so there's a place you can go to. Thank you.